So my background is not in horse racing, and I started my career working for an investment bank in tech for about 10 years before I was poached and went into property for 3 years, and that's when I first really started doing a lot of work overseas and worked in India and Morocco and other places. And that experience of 3 or 4 years of doing that then led me to work in international development for a further 7 or 8 years, and that took me to Rwanda, the Middle East, Philippines, and all over really. But the principles of marketing and changing human behavior remain the same, really, no matter what field you're in. However, I have a big passion for all sports, and it was my hobby, which is a website called The Sporting Blog, which I founded about 2 or 3 years ago, 2017, so actually 4 years ago. Wow. Led me to racing and to the forming of Championship Horse Racing and our idea for team sport, which was the Racing League. And I suppose the concept of the Racing League was to use a popular format that people can easily associate with, i.e. teams and a league, and apply it to racing. And it was through the format that also therefore allowed us to bring in or talk to commercial partners that otherwise wouldn't be necessarily interested in racing as it stands. This is a very big topic, but sponsorship of races, naming races, race tracks having boards is a familiar concept, but not for everyone. And what we found in our research phase, of course, a lot of brands are put off by the fact that there's not a lot of connectivity between race meetings, and unless you're really into racing, you probably wouldn't know the calendar that well. How Racing League actually works and unfolds is over a 6-week period with 6 races over 6 consecutive Thursday nights, all played out live on Sky Sports and on other media channels, which we will be announcing in the near future. And it's that joining of the dots, the narrative that runs over the sort of couple of month period from the build up through to the final race night at Newcastle on September 2nd. That is something that commercial partners can engage with, and we think obviously will keep fans interested. And the soap opera of it all, and the rivalries and stories from week 1 moving to week 2, 3, 4, etc. And we know that from other sports, especially football and rugby, cricket, and other mainstream sports leagues, that those stories are really what keep people engaged. There's more talk about what happened last week often than there is about what's coming this week. And I think that's the sort of root of the concept and what makes it different from what's already on offer in racing. Now, I've said a million times, this is not that anything else, this is not better, or the other types of racing aren't worse. It's a purely complementary thing. We're not running horses at the pattern level. We're really looking to give prize money back to the sort of mid to lower tier horses and their owners. And that's, where the money's needed. So the £2 million odd in extra prize money is something we're very, happy to be able to offer racing at a time when it really needs it. We have recently announced our community partnership. So we've announced that our official racing charity is Racing to School, and our official charity outside of racing is Sporting Chance. For me, they are an important part of the whole piece. Racing League was always meant to be about people. And I know racing, the star of the show is the horse, there's no doubt. But at our level of handicap, most of these horses won't be going on to have very, what I would say kind of 5-star breeding careers. And for a lot of these owners, the thrill of owning the horse, it means a lot to them. But for people outside who won't necessarily know the name of the horse or see them run again, it can be a little bit anonymous. So instead, Racing League is going to focus on the people within the sport, from the trainers and the jockeys, stable staff, right down to people that work and live at race courses and that sort of thing. And the Racing to School partnership in particular was one that really interested me from day one, because a sport that employs indirectly 80,000 people can affect a lot of lives. There are people that have grown up around horses, there are people that aren't, there are kids at school whose parents are involved in the sport, and some of them will carry that on, and there are others, like myself, that have come into the sport later in life. And then, of course, there are people that are fans, and I think that kids can be encouraged to learn about this really massive industry and the heritage of it, and why the UK is still, considered the home of racing really around the world. And I think it's something that we should be proud of in the UK. When people go to Newmarket, they see the statue at the roundabout and everyone's wowed, and you can't really believe this place sort of exists. And it's that sort of thing that I like to talk about. And I think that our partnership with Racing to School is going to help us, bring racing to more people. But vice versa, it'll help us get the Racing League story into communities, especially schools close to our racetracks or yards that are involved with teams. And likewise, Sporting Chance do some really incredible work, especially in the mental health field for professional sports people. And that's something that we read a lot about in racing. It's, especially amongst jockeys, it's a very tough business. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of abuse. It's a relentless schedule and routine for these girls and guys. And it's, perhaps the amount of racing there is day to day, it kind of you just expect them to drive up here, get on board, ride a winner, come home. There's not a lot of concern, I think, from the general public about, how these people live their lives and their welfare and so on. So I believe that partnership is going to help us highlight some of the difficulties that people go through working in racing, and at the same time, hopefully raise some money for the benevolent fund that also helps people that have come out of professional sport and need some support. So really important for us. Now, in terms of adding, educating and welcoming new people into the sport, I think I've been on record a few times saying I don't think there's millions of people waiting sort of outside the gates to suddenly learn about racing and jump into racing. But what I do know is that there are a lot of casual sports fans in the UK and around the world that have a passing interest in racing. 2 or 3 times a year, everyone knows about racing, the Grand National, Cheltenham, Ascot, and so on. And your woman, man in the street who really doesn't watch any racing the rest of the year suddenly turns on, switches on. Cheltenham have done it brilliantly. The Grand National, obviously, we all remember the Grand National from when we were kids. It's a sort of yearly event that, you crowd around the TV with your family to watch and so on. And then you've got the sort of the ceremony and the prestige of Ascot that really, marks the sporting summer in the UK. I've always just thought that we must be able to capture some of this energy the rest of the year as well. Now, not every day, because, that's what makes things special. But we know that people have a passing interest, whether it's because they like to have a bet or whether it's because they like Frankie Dettori or they've heard a story of a certain horse. I mean, we also know that a lot of people for those big events, my wife, mum, and so on, pick a lot of horses based on name or silk colours, and they don't read into the form and all of those sorts of things. I think the Racing League is going to give those people 6 really good events to get into. And I think the nature of putting the jockeys in team colours that they ride in every race for 6 weeks really gives people a chance to get to know those people And if they're going to be drawn in, this is, I think it's a simple way to draw someone in. Now, off the back of that, we may educate people about racing as a whole. If we do a content series about how handicapping works, what does some of the terminology mean, and so on, it might pull people in to watch the next day, a non-racing league event, and that's fantastic. But I do think that the simplicity of the format, by the way, doesn't mean that the racing is no good or it's dumbing down, because it's still 36 12-runner handicaps, and it's 12 guaranteed runners every time, which is great for bookies and for the standard of racing. But I do think, if you are, this all started because, the idea was that racing can sometimes be anonymous when you put it aside another sport. And Jeremy tells the story of watching Man U on one TV in a bar and racing from, I think it was Brighton or Bath on the other screen. A great race, but you've no idea really what's going on, because you don't know who the horses are, you don't know who the owner is, you can't see the jockey because he's, covered up, and that sort of thing. Whereas here, you'll know that Frankie or Holly or Oisin riding in whatever it is, blue, red and yellow, let's say, for the whole 6 weeks, or their teammate, and you can recognise that, that's that team. And I just think that it takes away a little bit of the mystery, and it sort of opens a door for people to come in. But it's not, again, I keep saying this, but it isn't supposed to replace, like, we're not going to take away owner's silks forever. It's a complementary event that I think will capture the imagination of people. And I've had, this is anecdotal stuff, and you can believe me or not, but I've had a lot of friends of mine, people that I've played cricket with, golf with, club tennis with, who've read or seen my vlogs about Racing League and have said to me they will watch because they don't know anything about racing, but the team format is something they can get behind, and I like that jockey, or when they are announced, there might be some brand loyalty somewhere that someone responds to, or a connection with the team, and there's a reason to support them, and not just because you want to have a bet and back them to win the race. So I think we can bring people in via the format. I really do. And I think for existing racing fans that might be skeptical about it, I would suggest just to give it a go, because at the end of the day, you're still watching horses run around the racetrack, and you're just watching, as I said, 12 guaranteed runners 36 times. And it just so happens that it matters who wins the first race and the third race, because there's a league table and points. Apart from that, it's still horse racing. That's my take on it. That's what I think Racing League can bring to the table. In terms of when and where you can see Racing League this summer, the first fixture is July 29th up at Newcastle. All Racing League fixtures will be live on Sky Sports Racing and other Sky Sports channels. And if you check back in with me in a few weeks, I can let you know some exciting news about where else you're going to be able to see Racing League over this summer. But yeah, July 29th. Any other information, please visit racingleague.uk. Thanks.